Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Melissa Champagne, Associate Director of Alumni Engagement at the NC State Alumni Association. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all today. We're very excited to kick off our New Year New Spaces series today with NC State University Libraries. Our upcoming virtual tours include Fitzwillard Hall in February and Carmichael Gym in March. Stay tuned to our events calendar and your email for more information. We would love to hear your questions today. In the chat, you'll see a link that will allow you to submit questions for our panelists. We'll answer as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. I would like to now introduce our moderator, Hannah Rainey, Associate Head of Research Engagement at the NC State University Libraries. Take it away, Hannah.
Thank you, Melissa. And thanks to all of you out there for joining us today. I'm going to start by introducing our esteemed panelists. We are so pleased and honored to be joined by NC State's Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost, Warwick Arden. Welcome, Provost. And welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And welcome also to our wonderful Senior Vice Provost and Director of Libraries, Greg Raschke. Hi, Greg. And our third and very special panelist is Sarah Merrick, a current senior in chemical engineering. Sarah is also a peer tutor with the Academic Student Success Center, and you'll hear about her work a little more later in the program. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
So thanks to all of our panelists for joining us today. Since most of our audience are alumni of NC State, we thought it would be fun to kick things off with a little walk down memory lane. We're going to show you some photos from our Special Collections archive that display what D.H. Hill Junior Library looked like throughout the years. And feel free in the chat to share some of your own memories too. So BJ and Chris, if you want to go and roll the movie. Great, thank you. Yeah, that's fun. The card catalog is always a big hit. And I will admit that my librarian career has never included a card catalog, but it's fun to see. So thank you so much. We are not here today to dwell on the past, though. We're here to take a look into the present and the future, and a first look at the amazing renovation of our D.H. Hill Junior Library. So let's jump right in with a question for our panelists. Director Raschke and Provost Arden, considering our audience of NC State alumni, what do you think might be the most exciting and surprising aspects of the Hill Library renovation for former students?
Thank you, Hannah, and I'll be very interested to see what Greg thinks. But I think the fact that we've reopened the Hillsborough Street entrance, that really is a beautiful entrance, and we've completely remodeled the Brickyard entrance. So for a year during construction, the Hillsborough Street entrance was the main entrance, but now we have both open, and I know that's been a big issue to students over the years. So two beautiful entrances. I think the amount of renovation in the central part of the library, with the amount of light and open space, will really capture folks' attention. I think folks will remember these floors of the library as being stacks and maybe a little less than visually exciting, shall we say. I think we're really impressed with how we've opened up the main stairwell coming in off the Brickyard. going up to the reception area in the library, then the second and third floors, the amount of light that has come in, how open it is, how collaborative it is. I think former students would be really excited to see this space.
Yeah, I think depending on when you were here, the Hillsborough Street entrance is a big change. Maybe it's a return to what you used to have in some cases, and I think that like signifies the transformation of the university towards Hillsborough Street, which has been more or less colorful and more or less attractive, right, depending on when you were here. But I think it's fair to say now the university has like opened itself up to Hillsborough Street, and Hillsborough Street has done a great job of sort of raising its game. So all the way from the bell tower down through the Hill Library now, you can kind of get a sense of the community and how NC State relates to it. But I would say the most striking difference is the tower, the openness of the tower that the provost mentioned. The libraries went through a few decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, of building towers for books, right? With very little light, very little room to walk around. And it turns out, those are not things that are hospitable to people and to collaboration and the kind of spaces that we enjoy now and that we like to enjoy together. So opening those up and transforming them from spaces solely built for books to spaces built for people plus books plus technology plus collaboration. It really is a striking difference in terms of the openness, the light, the feel, the energy that you get when you come into the building. It brings, I think, a sense of hopefully fun and energy and sort of engagement when students and others come into the building.
Great, thank you so much. So we're going to move on to our second video, and keep an eye out for the pictures of the staircase and all of the beautiful natural light. It will give a first look at the new furnishings and the new spaces, as well as an introduction from the Senior Vice Provost for Academic Strategy and Resource Management, Dwayne Larrick.
The planning and the concept behind the Academic Student Success Center was really related to the first objective of our strategic plan, which is the success of our undergraduate students, the success of all of our students here on campus. We wanted to find a place where we could consolidate some of the services that were distributed all across campus for our students, and we started looking at different sites, and it became very obvious that DHL Library was the appropriate place for this, somewhere on North Campus where students already congregate and bring services to them. So this gave us the opportunity to look at moving things like tutorial services and career services and the Writing Center and academic advising all to one place here in DHL Library. It also gave us the opportunity to look at the DHL Library itself, and so this project had some add-ons, some tremendous pluses. One of the things that we were able to do, because we had to close the Brickyard entrance for construction, we were able to open the Hillsborough Street entrance again. It's been since the mid-90s that was open, and that gives great access to the students, but also the community at large, to the library. And then in the process of renovating the second and third floor, we were also able to look at the entryway down behind me and make this much more open and welcoming entry with the grand staircase coming up to the first floor to the Ask Us Center, and then up to the second and third floor to the Student Success Center.
Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed seeing a sneak peek of those new spaces. I've had the privilege to go on site a few times in the last couple semesters, and it's just a beautiful transformation, really inspiring. So we're going to move on to our next video, one of our featured spaces. It's called the Innovation Studio.
The idea for the Innovation Studio started back with the early renovations for the planning for the libraries back in 2017. And the idea was that we wanted to create a space that would allow for us to showcase the innovative work done by students and faculty here at NC State. So a lot of the space is based on gestural motions. So there's a lot of workshopping and planning and concept development. We picture the space being accessed by kind of everyone here at NC State. It'll be open year-round with exhibitions that are regularly updated. So we hope that it'll be a space that people can come in and learn about the innovative work being done, really kind of dive deep into understanding how each project is created, and become inspired from that from that work to kind of push the boundaries of what innovation can be.
So when we were thinking about programming and workshops for the Innovation Studio, we started with a question, and that question was, can you teach somebody to be an innovator? So we looked at what other similar spaces are doing, and we looked at different curricula for design thinking and things like that. And what we came to was that, yes, you probably can teach somebody to be an innovator, or at the least you can give them the tools and skills and ideas and inspiration that they might need to start thinking more innovatively and applying those concepts to their own studies, their own work. So we also go into courses, and we'll give those general audience workshops to any course and customize it for whatever their subject matter is. So for example, we do an Innovation 101 workshop that involves going over case studies of innovation in whatever that particular field is. So we can do that for a course. We can walk into, say, an applied ecology course and have a bunch of case studies ready for innovation in applied ecology, and that serves as a basis for discussion for students to kind of kickstart their semester or help out with a course project, or just really help them engage critically with the subject matter.
Great. So we're going to open it to our panelists for some questions about the Innovation Studio, which is located on the second floor of the library. So what does the Innovation Studio provide students that they cannot get elsewhere, either on campus or off campus?
Warwick, you want me to start, and then you can
Sure.
correct or fill in around me? I mean, I think that what the Innovation Studio does is it provides the combination of leading edge technologies that students can't easily get their hands on. Some of them may be able to, but for the whole collective student body, to be able to get their hands on things like 3D projection, manipulable projection, things like augmented reality, virtual reality in the latest installments, combined with expertise workshops to help them not just see the technology, but use it, learn it, maybe even master it, and then employ it into their teaching and learning, their learning activities. And then as they go out like into the professional field or into their graduate studies, they can have a leg up in terms of not just exposure to the technology, but the skill set that goes with it. I think we started this with Hunt in terms of thinking about not just student success while they're here. And I know this is a big point for the university now, but thinking about how to have that success transcend into their careers. When they leave us here, how are they more competitive? How are they more successful, and thinking about that combination of skill sets. So that's a lot to rest on the Innovation Studio, but it just provides those sprinkles of things. And then it brings people together around things like entrepreneurship, design thinking, future thinking. So it brings the curriculum together in a way that can be a little bit more challenging to do in the traditional classroom. And then lastly, it's just a toolkit for our faculty. Some of our most creative and innovative faculty are using it to engage their students in ways that they otherwise couldn't in some of the more traditional classrooms. So they're producing things like interactive media as opposed to a standard paper. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but they get both of those experiences, maybe even in the same class.
Thanks, Greg. One other thing I love about our libraries is that our libraries have always been at the forefront on pushing this interaction between technology and learning. I give a lot of kudos to Greg's predecessor, Susan Nutter, and then for Greg, who's picked up on that and followed through and taken it to new levels. But one of the things that I challenge us all to think about is, how are we going to learn in the future? And what are the positives and sometimes the negatives of technology? How can we leverage those things? And how can we learn in new ways? So I think the Innovation Studio is, as Greg said, a platform for new innovative technologies, to allow students to look at information in different ways, to allow faculty to provide information in different ways and interact with knowledge. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great resource for our faculty and our students. And once again, I'm just incredibly proud of the role that our libraries play in pushing that interface as we move forward, focusing on student success.
Thank you. And so pushing this a little bit further, Greg, you mentioned how part of the mission is to equip students beyond the classroom. And so how might the Innovation Studio help students as they move on from NC State?
Yeah, well, I think to reiterate a couple of things that I mentioned, it just gives them a skill set that perhaps not every student in the country is getting, right? And I think it builds upon that combination that NC State really values, which is the practical knowledge, right? So they can go into the workforce or go into graduate school and be successful, right? So that's computing-based, technology-based skill set, but also the creativity, right? To, as the provost mentioned, to leverage that forward in a 5, 10, 20, 30-year time span about knowledge sets having to evolve, a comfort with learning new technologies and new skills so they can evolve as their work evolves, as the demands of their workplace evolve. And I think we're kind of equipping students for both that practical reality of I'm finished with school, now I have to get to work and be successful, but also that creative, long-term, lifelong reality of success in the workplace.
Thank you, that's wonderful. One aspect that was sort of highlighted in the video and something I'm personally very excited about is how the Innovation Studio won't be limited to professionals or people who already have the skills, but will also be a place where students can showcase their work themselves. Sarah, I'm wondering, kind of putting you on the spot, is there anything particularly exciting for you about this space?
Sure. I really am intrigued by all the new technology that I just saw in the video. And just to reiterate, I think it sounds like a really exciting opportunity from a student perspective to have the opportunity in certain classes to work on projects that focus more on that technology rather than just solely in a written form.
The other thing that can be really fun, and we've seen this in all sorts of programming that Marion does and others do with the Alumni Association, is students getting to exhibit their work and display it in a really public venue. It creates an excitement. We've seen this with like digital short films. They bring their parents, they bring their friends, right? And eventually, right, it won't be too long till we're back to that kind of environment where their work could be on display. And then they can kind of come showcase it to their fellow students, to their friends, to their family, and that has an excitement that you can't get in a common sort of course environment, and it really helps engage them right further.
Great. Thank you all for those very thoughtful answers. And I want to remind the audience participants that there is a Google form. There's a link that was pasted in the chat moments ago where you can submit questions that we will address at the end of the program. All right. Well, I think it's about time to move on to our next featured space, and that is the Academic Student Success Center.
It's been a long-term goal of the university to have one place where students can come and receive tutoring and mentoring support, and also get to meet other people and meet with academic success. So we haven't been able to fully realize this space yet. We just moved here in late July, and because of the pandemic, we haven't had the opportunity to have students visit yet. However, our vision is for students to be able to come and receive tutoring. We're planning on having a lot of drop-in tutoring support, group tutoring support, as well as drop-in academic advising, career counseling, and wellness coaching for students. Our model is to hire peers to be tutors and mentors because they have been a successful student very recently in the course and can model how to be a successful student by helping the students become independent. So the tutors don't give direct answers, but instead know how to guide the students with engaging them in resources and asking questions and helping them make connections between what they've learned in class and what the homework assignment is asking.
As a peer tutor, I work with students in introductory math, physics, and chemistry courses and really help to drive home foundational concepts in those courses. So I really envision that this space will provide a lot of opportunities for making those connections with students. Some of the
Wonderful. Thank you. So let's, Sarah, let's pick up where that video left off with you talking about your work at the Academic Student Success Center and as a student tutor, what sorts of things do you help with your fellow students with, and what has been the most enjoyable or impactful thing about this work for you?
Sure. So I am a chemistry tutor. So I work in the drop-in program, which means that I, along with other tutors, will either sit in a room prior to the pandemic, or now we do it through Zoom, and any student who has a question can come in and get help on any assignment for their classes. So I really sit down with the students, and as was mentioned in the video, we kind of focus on using questions to get the students to kind of use their own resources, like their class notes, to be able to figure out the answers to problems on their own. And it's always really rewarding to see that understanding when a student is finally able to figure out the problem on their own.
Great, thank you. And I have one more question for you. And you, of course, touched on this in the video, but how does tutoring help you develop your own skills and knowledge, both about the subject you're helping with, but also beyond the classroom?
Yeah, so all of the courses I tutor, I have taken in the past, but it may have been a while since I've taken some of the courses. And as a chemical engineering major, it's still really important to have a deep understanding of those basic chemistry concepts. So being able to go over those with students who are taking the classes is really helpful to kind of remind myself of those concepts. And then outside of just the technical content, I really feel that being a tutor has helped me to improve my technical communication skills and just given me a great opportunity to work with a wide variety of people.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's so wonderful to hear from you and your experience as a tutor and as a student. So I have a couple questions now for Director Greg Raschke and Provost Arden about the Academic Student Success Center. And if we could start with the Provost, we recognize, or at least I know from being sort of behind the scenes and part of this, that the Academic Student Success Center represents a significant cross-departmental collaboration. How did this collaboration take shape, and what exciting services can students expect from this partnership? So we'll start with the Provost and then follow up with Greg.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, it is a great partnership. And if we go back a little bit in history, some of the things I think you learn from maybe too many years in administration of large public universities is that, first of all, things take time. Secondly, things are better achieved when you have a team of people working together, particularly across disciplines. And lastly, there's often a domino effect, particularly when it comes to space and space availability. So it was always important to me, and particularly as student success was the #1 goal of our strategic plan, to have a place, a central place that students could go for services that would support their success, as opposed to ping-ponging around campus, getting advising here and tutoring somewhere else. And a central place that was a place where students were comfortable, where they could interact, where it was a high traffic area. So that became an important kind of theme to me, or concept to me. Really, the opening came when we opened the Hunt Library. And so we're going back 7 years or more, because we moved a couple of million volumes out of the Hill Library to put in the bookbot at Hunt Library. That created some available space, or potentially available space, on the second and third floor of the central part of the library. So I began working with then Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, Mike Mullen, and Greg's predecessor, Susan Nutter, Vice Provost and Director of Libraries, to talk about how we could really have a collaborative effort to create a student success center in Hill. Now, I didn't have a specific vision of what it might look like at that time, but thanks to a lot of folks working together, including Dr. Larrick, who chaired the building committee, we began to really shore up concepts of what these spaces may look like, with some spaces led predominantly by DASA, some predominantly by libraries, but really both working together hand in hand. And I want to give a huge amount of kudos to Greg Raschke, who's really picked up after Susan Nutter and really taken these concepts to the next level, working with, first of all, Mike Mullen and then Interim Vice Chancellor Lisa Zapata. And so it's really been a team effort. We also want to give a lot of kudos to facilities under Doug Morton, who've worked tirelessly to come up with options and opportunities for us. And so this has really evolved over the last 7 or more years. Folks coming together, working together with a shared vision, all center around impacting student success and providing them opportunities that they may not get elsewhere. And so I couldn't be more thrilled with the end product. I think especially when we are more fully face-to-face in the fall, students will really see the value of this space and see what a incredible, unique space that we've been able to create. And once again, a huge amount of kudos to the libraries for their forward and critical thinking, to the Division of Academic and Student Affairs, to my Vice Provost, Dwayne Larrick, who chaired the committee, to facilities under Doug Morton. Everybody really came together to make this work. And the Chief Financial Officer helping me find the money to pay for it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg for his perspectives, but this has been, for me, it's been a labor of love for 7 or 8 years, and I'm thrilled with the outcome.
Yeah, we are as well. I think the provost covered it well, Hannah, so I'll let you get to the next question. But just to reiterate the point that working together to bring these services to students has been a real joy. And we did get some help from private donors and supporters and alumni to help us make the vision happen as well. Some of those little extras that we couldn't otherwise afford, we were able to do with some private support as well. So you all helped make it happen too.
Great, thank you, Greg and Provost Arden. And Greg, you can answer this other question that we have prepared about how have the services of the Academic Success, Student Success Center been enhanced by consolidating and moving them to the Hill Library?
Yeah, I mean, I think you get 2 big benefits. One is if you put services for students that are crucial in a heavily trafficked, easily accessible location. Like that was the basic core of the idea that we started with. And we've seen that in Hunt with the Data Experience Lab and other services. We've seen it other places on campus. And this is a trend that the university has undertaken, is make it easy to find, put a lot of things together, and the use goes up. So you get the increased utilization, which we haven't seen yet, but I know that we will. We're confident that we will, starting probably over the summer and then into next fall. And then the other thing is you see students taking advantage of things in concert with each other. So they might have gotten chemistry tutoring help, but would they have gotten help writing their paper? Or would they have gotten the research help that they could get in the library? So you co-locate things that go together, and then all of a sudden they're using, instead of 1 service, they're using 3 or 4. And you start to see things like higher GPAs and maybe more success in terms of their through rate as they graduate and things like that. And those are the kind of things that we'll be really interested in studying over the years. But we know they'll use them more, and we're confident that the use will be better as well.
Thank you, Greg. And speaking for myself as a librarian, I am excited and can see so much potential in being able to meet with a student to talk about library resources and then walk them over to the tutoring center to get even more help, and just collaborating more with our colleagues across campus. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. So next, we're going to move on to our next featured space, which is near and dear to my heart, as you'll see, and that's the Visualization Studio. This Visualization Studio is a reimagination of the original Visualization Studio that existed from 2013 to 2019. This renovation was an amazing opportunity to reimagine the space and push the boundaries of the technology. We also did something fairly unique in making a fully round room. You don't see round rooms many places. And so in creating this round room, we wanted to increase the immersive quality of the space. And so the space offers 360 degrees of projection. They're high definition projectors run by a single, very high-powered PC. And so you have the combination of the 360 degrees of immersive visuals combined with the auditory immersion can create a really unique experience for our students and faculty. The vision is to provide sort of a place where people can imagine what's possible with teaching and learning and presenting research. So developing the space, we had a team of 8 people from the libraries from all different departments with different expertise. We all got together and met regularly to talk about the different use cases and to make important technology decisions. We also demoed technology and are now working on developing programming together with faculty. So the use cases for the visualization studio are primarily, I imagine, teaching and learning. So really expanding what is possible in the classroom. Faculty can bring their classes into the visualization studio and transport them to different physical locations, different time periods. They can even transport them off the planet by providing that fully immersive experience, 360 degrees of projection and spatial audio. It can really create a unique learning experience. Beyond that, the space will be used to showcase research. So we have a lot of amazing research here at NC State. And similar to the Hunt Library, we provide places where researchers can communicate with the public and really showcase and have the public experience that research in a new way. I hope everyone uses this space. All of our NC State faculty, students, staff, and even our community are welcome to experience the Visualization Studio. I think the Visualization Studio has a lot of potential to impact learning outcomes for students and the teaching outcomes for instructors. It's a unique space, so instructors can plan a special lecture utilizing immersive technology, whether that's Google Earth or their own unique content that they've created for that class. It extends the impact beyond the classroom without having to physically go anyplace other than the library. And I think even though we can't gather in this space right now, it's really going to be significant in a post-pandemic world when we start to move away from individual devices back towards community experiences, and this space has enormous potential for that. Wonderful. So for our panelists, and Greg, you had mentioned this earlier you mentioned the Hunt Library. And so our campus community and the wider public have benefited from immersive spaces at the Hunt Library for many years. What might be different or unique about having the space located on our central campus?
I think that it just makes it available, more easily accessible and available to a whole additional community of users. I think it's been interesting at Hunt, the immersive spaces have been used by obviously the engineers who are right nearby there, the textiles people who are there, but also the social scientists and humanists who are all over campus, and even the veterinary medical scholars and researchers who are over on the Centennial Biomedical campus. So these spaces, people will go to them and find them. But again, if you make it more easily accessible, you make it easier to use, you'll get a different connections of disciplines, and you'll get different intersections that are occurring in that space. I also think you mentioned in your video, Hannah, that community experiences, how crucial they are. It's interesting, Dr. Vicki Gallagher, who's the lead on the Virtual Martin Luther King Project, has mentioned many times that project can happen over a VR headset for an individual, but they have observed and they have data to document the real power of doing an immersive experience with a group of 10, 20, 30 other students and talking about it and engaging in it and doing the critical thinking of that kind of community-based immersive experience is different, and it has a power sort of all to its own. So I think we'll see more and more of that with it located on Central Campus as well.
Thank you. And just to open it up to all of our panelists, what unique experiences might students or yourself look forward to in the Visualization Studio?
Yeah, I really like the points that have been made about the immersive potential of the room. So yeah, I can definitely envision being in classes where that technology can be used to kind of give you a different perspective than a normal classroom. It would probably be very effective in, history classes or literature classes. And I can also see potential for use in engineering classes, even as you show maybe what it's like to be in an engineering industrial setting.
I think it's fair to say that this generation of students learns far more experientially and visually in many ways. Most of them have grown up with and never known a world without the web, have multiple devices, interact often, if they want to learn how to change a tire on their car, instead of asking dad, they go to a video on YouTube. I think it's just an example of the way people learn these days. So I think there is incredible power to immersive experience, such as the visualization lab. I've seen it at Hunt, and look forward to seeing it again at Hill. It's just a very, very powerful way, a very experiential way to learn. So I think this will be a new generation of the way we present information to our student body, and the way faculty are enabled to explore different modalities, exciting modalities about presenting data and information. So I'm very excited about it.
Thank you so much, Provost Arden. With that, we're going to move on to our final featured space, and that is the Data Experience Lab.
So the vision for the Data Experience Lab is really to be a makerspace, but for people who work with data. And that includes people who do digital humanities work, people who do data science. Really, the challenge is just to give the people what they want. So we've been trying to think about how to turn the things that they're asking for into a reality that they can use here. So one of the things that you'll be able to do here in the Data Experience Lab is meet with your peers. We have graduate students who we hire as data science consultants. So you can come in and ask them questions about implementing your data analysis in programs like R and MATLAB and Python. And we really think that having peers working with other peers is a great way to do informal learning.
For me personally, I am excited about working here due to the fact that I'm interested in marketing analytics. So I wanted to strengthen my skills within different data visualization applications. So I joined here as a data science consultant. That way I would be able to practice different applications while also being able to get my hands on different types of projects by helping in consulting with different students, and to also build up my consultation skills with other students.
I think one of the ways that this space is going to be really attractive for faculty is that it's not where they normally live. It's a neutral place where they can come and do interdisciplinary work with other researchers from around campus and meet face-to-face in a productive, collaborative, inclusive, welcoming space.
Great. Well, I have a couple of questions about this space, and we can start with Greg Raschke. How will this space and the associated services support student success beyond the class? I think that's kind of a theme today. What is your vision also for how it will impact student research?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the sort of implications beyond the classroom, right, have been a, like you said, a common theme today. And it's just really, these are universal skills that people have to be successful going forward, right? They have to have at least some experience with data. They don't have to be fluent with all the programs that Mike mentioned on the video, right? But the more exposure they have to them, the better off they're going to be. The more fundamental data science concepts that they know, the more fundamental statistical concepts that they know, they'll be better equipped to be successful. And that crosses all disciplines now, right? That's not just a STEM issue. That covers every single discipline that the students are going to engage in and connect with. So that's the sort of crucial part of it. And it is building more and more into the curriculum. But while that happens, we can be a facilitative sort of force. A lot of these spaces are things that you see like are emerging, and the library can incubate them. And the provost kind of mentioned this. We have a history of bringing them onto campus, incubating them, and then we can get them more into the classroom. And then when everybody else is doing them, we can look at what the next thing is and where we need to go next on behalf of students and faculty and alumni as well. So, and then the other thing is, I think you implied this with your question, project-based experiential learning, and the provost mentioned this, it just makes it more engaging and more fun, right? And working with someone like Sarah is, for a lot of students, is a lot more comfortable and engaging than working with someone like me, right? And that's just the reality of it. So they get to work with a peer, a very knowledgeable, skilled, expert peer with technologies that they can't get their hands on. And that combination of space, technology, and expertise, those three things together, really help unlock the kind of experiential learning, the comfort level of the students, and help them get a command of these kind of skills moving forward.
Thank you, Greg. Provost Arden, do you have anything you'd like to add in regards to the Data Experience Lab and how it can impact student learning, both in and beyond the classroom?
Just very briefly, data and data analysis are becoming a central theme of almost every academic program in the university. And data inform, they don't direct, but they inform our decisions more and more every day, whether you're in academia or the private sector or the public sector. And to visualize that data adds another dimension. I think you see in the media now, more and more outlets, whether it's New York Times or CNN, are putting more effort into the visualization of data. You see this particularly in the pandemic data at the moment. But when you think about it, almost every major industry or endeavor collects huge amounts of data these days. And visualization of that data adds just a critical element to understanding of the data. The data is only of value if it can be understood and interpreted and modify our decisions in some ways. And so I think this lab is once again on the forefront, and very proud of the role that our libraries are taking in this.
Thank you so much. I'm just really excited to see how all of these spaces are starting to fit together and the associated services to really enhance the experience for students. I want to just add one more question, and this will be for anyone thinking about our instructors. How might our instructors add this space and the tools available in the space to their repertoire to push and make teaching and learning less of an exercise and more of a real enterprise?
Well, I think the first thing they can do is they can reach out to any of our librarians, right, who are associated with these spaces. People like you, Hannah, right, are a great resource for those kind of instructors who want to kind of leverage those kind of things going forward. Or they can reach out to our friends in DASA who are right there in those same spaces with us to help connect some of these resources into their teaching and learning. And then, of course, our partners in like Delta and the Office of Information Technology. Everyone is really focused and on helping faculty and instructors make these kinds of hands-on experiential opportunities for their students. And fundamentally, I think that's where like the use of the campus space, right? We've learned through a lot of this pandemic, and Warwick knows this better than I, and can add on to this quite a bit, but that the residential campus experience is incredibly valuable. And there's a lot about that community, sense of belonging and engagement, types of learning. But a big part of it is experiential, hands-on, sort of cross-cutting learning opportunities. Those are difficult labs, design studios, entrepreneurship initiatives. Those are really hard to replicate online, and our faculty have done a great job. But the experience that you can get in person in a space like these kinds of spaces help take it to a whole nother level of quality of learning, quality of experience, and the sort of student and teacher satisfaction kind of coming out of it.
Yeah, I think Greg summarized that extremely well. You know, post-pandemic, we always ask ourselves, what's it going to look like at a major public university, major public R1 university post-pandemic? And there's no doubt we'll probably be doing, continue to do more online than we used to. We'll continue to try and improve our online skills and engage our students. But as Greg said, there's a reason that we believe in an on-campus or an in-person experience. And so these experiences are incredibly valuable for our students. Our students are going to graduate and going into a world where they are going to be expected to work as part of a large, diverse, interdisciplinary team. And as many skills as we can give our students to enhance that, the better. So once again, this is geared towards graduating successful students, but it's also geared towards giving our faculty the tools that they need and want and ask to be really innovative about the way they provide their materials. I mean, our faculty are fantastic. They have been real drivers here and continue to be drivers in innovation. And so I want to make sure I give them a huge amount of kudos as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all of your thoughtful insights into these new spaces and services. And thanks to all of the participants from DASA and the libraries and Wolf TV for making those wonderful videos. So we're going to transition to sort of open Q&A from the audience. I have a list of questions that have come through the Google form already, but please, participants, go ahead and submit questions now if you have them. And while we sort of shift, we have one more video that is a series of photos of the new spaces, some of which you've seen, but will give you sort of a sense of the space in lieu of a physical tour. So if we could start playing that video now. And we may just go ahead while this is playing, start on some of these questions. There were a lot of questions about when we can expect to have in-person tours. I know that's probably, you know, after seeing these teasers, people want to get in there. So Greg, can you provide a bit of information about our plans for this semester in terms of public access? Can you hear us, Greg?
I can. Sorry, the chat
Okay.
function. The chat function prevented me from unmuting. I'm not sure what I did there. Yeah. Basically, we're not open broadly to guests right now. We're open just to students, faculty, staff at NC State who are on campus. But our hope is, it basically, the short answer is it depends on the pandemic. As things evolve, we're going to reevaluate every month. Look at where we are. It depends on what the campus policies are around guests. But as soon as we're able to open to guests more broadly for campus, then we can start to connect and offer these spaces to people. I think the hopeful answer is later this spring. Probably the realistic answer is summer, as we start to get into, it would be really nice to start offering public tours for students, the other for alumni, but also prospective students who are thinking about coming to NC State, because the Hunt Library, the Hill Library, the Tally Student Union, these kinds of spaces make a difference in terms of people choosing to come to NC State. And so we want to be able to offer them. So I would love to be able to offer them this summer. And Brooke Peters, who's been on the chat, coordinates tours for us of Hunt and Hill. So I think that's probably a realistic answer.
Thank you, Greg. So I'm going to ask the questions in the order that they through more. So this one is specifically about the Innovation Studio, but can also, I think, apply to some of the other spaces. Do you ever involve alumni in Innovation Studio programs in ways to share their career experiences with students?
I saw that in the chat. That's what I was looking at when I couldn't get back to unmute myself. I think that's a great idea. I don't know that we have, but I think that's an incredible idea. That was part of the idea of showing faculty research, right? Was like looking at what's possible and sort of displaying what's possible. But I think and that fits very well with the theme of a lifetime of success, right, for our students. Like, look at what industries are doing. It connects to sort of, I think, our evolving extension mission, and how NC State connects with all quarters of North Carolina. So that is a newish idea, and we are going to take that forward and figure out how to do some of that.
Great, thank you, Greg. Next question, very important. Will there still be a creamery in the renovation? This is one of my favorite things about the walk up Hillsborough Street side.
Yes, absolutely. There is a creamery, the coffee shop, the Hill of Beans coffee shop, which some folks who were here helped with a parents campaign to help build that coffee shop. It's relocated up, as Hannah just intimated, near the Hillsborough Street entrance. So it's actually even easier, to get. So you can do the creamery window, and you can just pop in, and the coffee and ice cream are together now, along with some sandwiches and other things. Students ask for more food to go with the coffee, and so that's all available. Like, the one-stop shop is a theme, right? So now you can get a sandwich, your coffee, and your ice cream all at one shot there.
Just make sure you ask for Provost pick ice cream, a flavor we developed just before the pandemic, with a coffee base, with chunks of chocolate and a caramel coconut swell. So it is my ambition in life to make sure my ice cream outsells Dean Linton's or the Chancellor's. So Provost pick, Choco Coco Cafe.
That sounds delicious. Certainly something to look forward to. So our next question, I think both of you can answer, and Sarah, if you want to answer too, is what are the differences and common things between the Hunt and the D.H. Hill libraries?
Sarah, do you want to start? I'd be curious the student perspective on that.
Sure. So I've always enjoyed all the various technological options that are available at Hunt. I think that's really a big draw of that library. And I know I've been to several different programs there that make use of their different technologies available. And so it's really nice to see that Hill is incorporating these kinds of technologies as well to kind of incorporate more of those programs, and just lots of different opportunities for students on both of NC State's campuses.
I think, we definitely brought over, like Sarah said, some of the elements of Hunt into the Hill renovation, but Hill still has some of its own unique quality, for those of you who remember that. And if you're really looking for that, like, traditional tucked away kind of in the corner experience, that's still available in Hill, right? We have 9 floors here in the stack, so we can offer more variety. And that's one thing we really focus on, is the whole variety, that different students like to study and learn in different ways. Some like a quieter nook where nobody's bothering them. Some like a traditional reading room, which we have here in the Hill Library, and they're also available in Hunt. Or it may just be like, depending on what you're doing that day, you want to work with people for an hour, and then you want to go be by yourself for an hour. And so we have all the variety. So I think Hill just has more options because it has more floors. So it has some of that traditional kind of stacks feel, if that's what a student wants.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to the next question from our audience. And this question, having been participated or heard some conversation around this internally, it's a complicated answer, but we'll ask the question, are there any pressures to remove the name D.H. Hill from the library?
I'll let Greg jump in, not because I'm trying to pass the buck, but my understanding is that the D.H. Hill in question, who played a role in the Civil War, was the father of the person for whom the library is named. It is really D.H. Hill Jr. And I don't believe there is a significant racist history associated with D.H. Hill Jr. But Greg, that's my understanding. Please correct me.
Yeah, one of the things we did start to emphasize the junior, because we would get contacted every couple weeks or once a month about how we could possibly be named the library for a Civil War general and an avowed racist. And so we made a conscious choice to use the junior in every case that we could, or just call it the Hill Library. And the library is named for the first librarian of the university, D.H. Hill Jr., who is the son of the Confederate general, who was also, I believe, a chancellor at one point. Like anyone in the early 20th century, juniors, philosophies and thoughts on race are not at all compatible with where we are now. And so it does get reviewed. People have looked at it, and I think the chancellor's got a process ongoing with a public history program to look at building names. But yeah, I think they started with Daniels Hall, obviously, and are looking at some others. So whether or not they get to the Hill Library or not, I think is a question for that group as it comes up. But yeah, there's a lot less questioning and scrutiny now that we've sort of made it clear who the library is, more clear who the library is named for, and that it's not a Confederate war general.
Yeah, thank you for that question, for the person who asked it, and thank you for your thoughtful answers. We know that it's a complicated area. We got a question from someone who worked at Hill as an undergraduate, and even after they graduated, asking if there's a diagram of the new building to see the new layout. That may be something that we can provide afterwards, or maybe something on the website. Greg, do you know if something's available?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look real quick at our website now. There are some floor plans and some layouts, and we can send the link to the renovation page, which I'm gonna come up with here in a moment, and then we can look at that. And if there's not a full-on diagram, that's something that we can add pretty quickly here.
Thank you, Greg. This next question relates to the first, or one of the first ones, I believe, is: do the libraries host on-site theme displays of selected industries, for example, food quality and safety testing, and involve alumni working in the selected industries? And I think that's along the lines of a great idea that we'll have to revisit in the future.
Yeah, I think that pairs with the innovation studio idea,
Yeah.
and we can pick up on how to use these kind of spaces to do that. And not just the innovation studio, I think potentially the spaces in Hunt, the video walls and things there would be great venues for that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Great. Another question: how did considerations of accessibility for persons with disabilities impact the renovations and creation of the new spaces?
Yeah, a big piece of that was creating the Hillsborough Street entrance, which was a major step forward in terms of accessibility, particularly if you have an accessibility issue and you're riding the bus or you're coming off of Hillsborough Street, going around to the Brickyard, finding the ramp coming up to the Brickyard entrance, then taking elevators just to get up above it. Anyway, it was a giant challenge and a huge accessibility problem. Now you can just kind of come in the Hillsborough Street entrance. So that was a big step. But lots of other elements around accessibility were considered: the height of different things, even things like the height of marker boards. We've made some adjustments to some of those kinds of things based on the latest research and the latest understanding and building codes and things like that. So even some of the technology and collaborative spaces are more accessible than the Hunt Library spaces, even modest improvements over that. And then, of course, things like stacks, traditional stacks that were built in the 1980s are not going to be as accessible as the kind of open spaces that one can more freely move and flow through. And the new standards about how far furniture needs to be apart and those kind of things, those are all sort of state of the art, fully implemented. And then the accessibility of the technology, right? So that people can utilize the technology more easily. And even things like the tutoring and writing center, they've emphasized accessibility in the kind of offerings that they're providing. So it's kind of embedded throughout the design and construction of the space.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and the doors, I forgot to mention, that's a big part, right? Automatic doors, just making it easy to move through the space for all kinds of people. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. All right, I think we have time for just one more, hopefully quick question. Can you tell us who the design team was? I don't think we covered that.
Lord X Sargent, thank you. It just took me a minute to was the executive architect, and they're a firm that's done a fair amount of work here regionally, and also it's just important. The University Architect's Office did all the project management here at NC State. Our facilities team, they led the whole project. They led the whole effort. The libraries, of course, participated. DASA, Dwayne Larrick chaired the search, but the architect of record is a firm called Lord X Sargent, which is on the links in the renovation pages that we provided. They're listed on there as well. But the campus architect's office really led the project soup to nuts. Great.
Well, that concludes our program and the end of our questions. If we didn't get to all of them, we'll be sure to have someone address them after the fact. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you so much to our panelists. This has been very informative and we have so much to look forward to in the future.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you everyone for spending some time with us.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day.